name on the line for a candidate, and which many see as a bellwether for the 2018 midterm elections, either way, either party. Republican Rick Saccone facing off against Democrat Connor Lamb for a Western Pennsylvania House seat. Recent polling showing them in a dead heat. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, here today town hall editor and Fox News contributor Katie Pavlich. Co-host of After the Bell on Fox Business, Melissa Francis. And for the first time on Outnumbered, the former director of strategic communications for Hillary Clinton, Adrian Elrod, also joining us, Republican political strategist and former chief of staff to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Josh Holmes is here. And he's outnumbered.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you
Thanks,
both.
Harris. So happy to be here.
Oh, this will be rocking. We've had you on overtime, so we know how this is going to go.
Josh said in the green room this is his favorite show to do.
Oh, look
All
at
right.
you. And you wore a hanky, too.
Oh, no. Look, I'm trying
Very
to keep it all
classy.
together here.
Very festive. All right, let's scoot to the news. 1 week from today, voters in Pennsylvania will decide which candidate to send to Washington. Many see the congressional race between Republican Rick Saccone and Democrat Connor Lamb as an early indicator for what to expect in the midterm elections. Recent polling shows them again tied. The district went overwhelmingly for President Trump in 2016. Both candidates have military experience. They highlight that in their latest campaign ads. Watch.
As the father of 2 sons in the military, I understand what it means to send young people into battle. Right now, America needs experts with real experience because lives are on the line.
What's missing in our society is that same thank you to the people who serve every day in our schools, in our hospitals, on our streets, and in our construction sites. It helps us remember who to say thank you to, and it helps us remember that service is the rent we pay for living.
And to let you know that this is a big deal, former Vice President Joe Biden is headed to the Western Pennsylvania district today to campaign on Lamb's behalf. And President Trump will go there on Saturday to hold a campaign-style rally. He's already endorsed Rick Saccone. Josh?
Yeah. Well, look, every special election has some unique circumstances. Not all of them are bellwethers of what's to come, but I do think we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen in terms of Democratic turnout. We saw some examples in the Virginia election earlier this year. We saw it again in Alabama, and I suspect we'll see it again in Pennsylvania with an awful lot of Democrats that are extremely motivated to go out and vote. What's interesting from my perspective about this race is the Democrat is actually running against his own party. He's cut an ad to camera basically saying that he's against everything that Nancy Pelosi stands for, right? So he's trying to kind of work within the confines of a conservative district to suggest that somehow a Republican light would be more advantageous to his candidacy, but we'll see how it works out.
You put that very kindly. You know, Adrian, he says he wouldn't even vote for Nancy Pelosi. And he's a Democrat.
Yeah, look, you know, first of all, this race shouldn't even be competitive, right? Because Trump carried this district by 20 points in just a year and 4 months ago when he was running for the presidency. But look, this is turning into what's considered to be a bellwether seat. I worked at the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee during the 2005-2006 cycle when Democrats took back control of the House. And plenty of our candidates then were running ads against Leader Pelosi. That's just kind of what you do. You've got to show your independence.
So they didn't like her then either?
No, it's not that. It's showing that you are independent from the national party in Washington is what it is. So, again, and I think that we certainly have seen this on the Republican side as well.
You know what's interesting about what Adrian is saying, Katie, is that is how long apparently some within the Democratic Party have thought that they've needed change. You remember Barack Obama said they need new car smell, and he was talking, I believe, about Hillary Clinton. So what does that say?
I think the wanting change in the Democratic Party started when Barack Obama came out of nowhere to beat Hillary Clinton in 2008. And it's been a long time coming for Nancy Pelosi, but she's been able to hold on to power because she has the purse strings, right? But to say that this district is something that should definitely be going to Republican isn't actually quite right, because there are more registered Democrat voters in this district than there are Republicans. And as Josh already said, Democrats are very motivated to come out and vote. The other thing, too, that I find interesting is this Democratic candidate, Connor Lamb, is not far left as we've seen the Democratic Party go. He's anti-establishment, but he's not far left in the sense of the anti-police message. We saw in that ad he just ran, stand up for the police. He is very moderate when it comes to a number of issues and actually represents the dying blue dog Democrat. And it's going to be difficult for them to
and he
combat
also
that message.
That's actually what struck me as well about this race, is that those who are running against Nancy Pelosi from the Democrats are usually coming from the left.
Right.
And it was
from the
very
right.
interesting to me that, you know, I mean, in so many places, she and Dianne Feinstein are not considered radical enough any longer and are sort of being thrown overboard for that reason. And when I saw these candidates come out and how similar they are in a lot of ways, or more so than you would see in other districts, it struck me that, wow, he's attacking Nancy Pelosi from the right. And is that something, if that's successful, what does that mean going forward?
Well, we'll see. But I think, you know, ultimately, going back to Katie's point, I mean, he is an independent candidate, right? He is running.
He's a Democrat.
He fits the profile. Well, he's a Democrat, but he's.
I mean, he may be so far right, he feels like an independent to you, but he is a Democrat.
But he is running somewhat independent of the national party, which I think is very important, especially in districts like this. And secondly, he is running on his own platform and on his own message. And this shows the importance of recruitment in some of these districts. Again, going back to the 06 cycle, we did recruit candidates like Brad Ellsworth, Heath Shuler, who were pro-Second Amendment, who were pro-life, and still ran as Democrats.
And let this be a lesson to all the voters in Pennsylvania. All of those candidates voted for Obamacare and promptly got booted out of Congress 4 years later. So as much as this particular candidate would love to have everybody convinced that they're not going to go in there and support Pelosi, by electing him, basically it takes him one step closer to putting Nancy Pelosi with the Speaker's gavel.
For a second, though, because I mean, when you talk about, okay, he's going to run separate from the national, I would assume that that's because Democrats are doing such a bad job at fundraising right now. I mean, you guys are really struggling on a national level. So you take those politics back again local. Republicans are not struggling as much, or at all if you look nationally. They're really bringing it in.
They're winning on that one.
Yeah, you know, look, there is an enthusiasm gap anytime a president and a new majority come into office. I think in the last 150 years, basically only twice has a majority party not lost seats in the House in their first midterm. And I think that historical trend probably holds. The last time it didn't hold was after 9/11, which clearly the environment was much different. So there are challenges for Republicans here, no doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure. The other race that we're not paying attention to in this race is the 2020 race between Joe Biden potentially and President Donald Trump, because they're both going to be in Pennsylvania campaigning for their respective candidates. So, all right, moving on. It looks like Hillary Clinton is looming over Democrats' attempts to take back Congress. Two former Clinton allies, both cabinet secretaries under Bill Clinton, say they will run for seats of retiring Republicans. Former Health and Human Services Secretary Donna Shalala, who also ran the Clinton Foundation for a time, filed paperwork for the House seat currently held by Republican Eliana Ros-Lathian of Florida. And former Congressman Mike Espy, who served as President Clinton's Secretary of Agriculture, says he has a strong intention to run for Thad Cochran's Senate seat. Yesterday, the Mississippi Republican announced he will retire. So, Adrian, is it really a good look for someone who was running the Clinton Foundation to be trying to run for Congress, given all the baggage that Hillary had in her campaign with the foundation?
Of course. Look, ultimately, I think it's, number one, not exactly fair to really classify these two people as Clinton surrogates. I mean, they are, but they have careers that are completely independent from working for Secretary Clinton, working for President Clinton in the administration. But look, Mike Espy, he comes from a huge family in the Delta region of Mississippi. He's very well known in that area. I'm still not entirely convinced that Democrats can win statewide in Mississippi. We haven't seen that happen since 1982. And interestingly enough, Haley Barbour was defeated in Mississippi, which is really kind of hard to imagine. And then Donna Shalala, again, she has a career that's completely independent and has done amazing work separate from her work in the administration, which, by the way, was also fantastic. So,
are Democrats going to nail that message home, though, when Republicans go after her for the Clinton Foundation connection?
They may, but I think she will stand. I think that she will stand. Again, you know, we could sit here and litigate the Clinton Foundation all day long. I'm very proud of all the work the Clinton Foundation has done. She's got a lot to run on in terms of the strong record there. But Donna Shalala has also had a completely incredible career separate from the foundation.
I think it also goes to show that the Clintonistas basically can't give it up, right? I mean, they're one last shot at power with Hillary Clinton evaporated, and so now every one of them out for themselves, trying to figure out a way to get back on board. But this race is interesting in Mississippi for one reason, I think, is because Republicans have the capability here of doing another Roy Moore episode. Yeah. Currently, you've got Chris McDaniel. I affectionately call him Mississippi Roy Moore. following the Alabama Roy Moore.
Accurate.
But he's right now filed to run against in a primary Senator Roger Wicker, a very conservative senator from Mississippi, who's doing a great job. But what he said yesterday after the retirement of Thad Cochran was, you know, look, if this is an easier race for me, I may switch. I may get in against somebody else that the governor would appoint. The problem is the way that race lines up, it's a runoff. Right? So if you have 2 or 3 Republicans in there that split the Republican vote against somebody like Mike Espy, who will unify a Democratic vote, I'll be darned if you can't figure out how to lose a state like Mississippi.
Yeah, you guys may.
That's a really interesting point.
But to the larger question of kind of what's going on in all of these races, I was talking to a great branding expert recently, Bruce Turkel, who was saying that what we really saw in the last election was the power of personalities. And, you know, on both sides, I mean, you had Bernie Sanders and you had President Trump out there as really unlikely characters to lead their party and to have that much support behind them. And it really shows you once again that you can't run against something successfully, that there has to be a dynamic person out in front. Perhaps less so in these local races where there are only a few choices and you're talking about really battling back against the larger scene. But in terms of Democrats going forward, I mean, because obviously this goes for both parties. Republicans had this problem forever. You need that really magnetic personality out front who's there to inspire people. And that's kind of the problem that Hillary Clinton always had.
Well, we also
The
had
nail on the head for the book that Hillary Clinton wrote. What happened? Right? No, I
still don't know.
mean that. I mean, if you peel away all of the politics and the fact that the DNC was, you know, kind of game the refs against Bernie Sanders. I mean, if you put all that aside, I mean, you had the dynamic personality in Bernie Sanders up against someone who I've even heard Democrats describe is, you know, not as exciting, to be kind about that. But it also speaks to the issue of post-Trump. Whether it's, you know, a double term for him or not, what will Republicans do? Because he's a dynamic person.
But Josh, I want to ask you, though, because Republicans do have a problem with a number of House members retiring early, getting out of these districts that Hillary Clinton won or that maybe they see will be flipped to blue in the midterms. They have a problem on their hands when it comes to getting voters to turn out. What do you think is going to happen?
There are some extremely daunting statistics when it comes to an incumbent party, a majority party, their first midterm on retirements. It's something like 90+% of those seats flip that become open. That alone, I think, is a huge concern for House Republicans, and they're, you know, busy trying to rectify that. Some good work on the outside by Congressional Leadership Fund, and I think they're going to be in good shape to try to defend a lot of those seats. But the statistics are not kind.
That's a big problem.
Well, and you talk about the brain trust there too. When you look at the openings on committees, it really speaks to not that there's not a lot of talent coming forth, but that talent then does not have the same amount of experience that some of the exiting members have.
That's right.
Well, speaking of Hillary Clinton, a former campaign insider is now pointing the finger at President Obama, saying he dropped the ball when it came to stopping Russia from meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Why, she says, Clinton world is so frustrated. Plus, the White House pushing back after a series of stunning interviews with a former Trump campaign aide who's now under the spotlight of special counsel Robert Mueller. Sam Nunberg changing his tune, what he's saying now and why the White House says they aren't concerned.
I can't explain it, but they have something. I just get a feeling he did something